Woodley Thompson 2, UFC 209. It's this Saturday night in Las Vegas Midstrip, T-Mobile Arena. I'm Scotty's Matthew Holt. He is VP of Business Development at CG Technologies. You guys all know him. I want to talk about the main event on Saturday night at 209, which is Woodley Thompson 2. First things first, the line opened or has jumped about 30 cents since the opening number, Matt, at CGT Books. So tell us where this fight opened, where this fight currently stands, and how the betting pattern compares to the first fight between these two.
So this fight opened minus 120, it's up to minus 150, and we saw that similar betting pattern in fight one where, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson opened around $1.65 and closed around minus 200. Now, I think a lot of people thought Tyron Woodley probably won that first fight rather than it being a draw. But when we look back now, the betting pattern almost replicates each other. It's just that this time we're giving a little bit more love to the champ out of the gate. But again, bettors are favoring that style of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and there's probably a lot of reasons for it.
Tell you what, that first fight, which was tremendously exciting, this one looks like it's going to be as exciting as can be on paper. When you look back to that first fight, which was 205, you saw a majority draw. Two judges had it scored 47 apiece. One judge had it 48-47. Woodley, if you happen to turn it on late and we're listening to Bruce Buffer announce the winner, he actually did a Warren Beatty Oscar night, Steve Harvey type of thing, where he actually announced Woodley as the winner. They had to correct him and say, no, it was a majority draw. So if you were tuning in late, this is a good lesson. You never tear up the tickets. You never throw a bet away if you still do the tickets. But here's the bottom line about this one. He opened the fight well talking about Woodley. You remember he was using his wrestling tactics. Things were going well. Kind of abandoned that at the end of the first round. And then that's when we saw Thompson go into his comfort zone with the kicks, with the striking, and he got right back in the fight.
Yeah, and these two couldn't be more opposite. When you look at Tyron Woodley, who's 5-1-1 in his last 7 fights, really good. And when you look at his overall record, 4 of his last fights have actually come by knockout. And while he has 5 submission victories to his credit, people think he has a submission game. They actually came in his first 5 fights as a professional, all against much lesser competition outside the UFC. So since Tyron Woodley has come into the UFC, he has no submission wins, and he's really become a power puncher. We saw him blast out Robbie Lawler in the first round, and he's known for that huge right hand. Where on the other side of it, Stephen Thompson wants to use his range, wants to use his kicks, that great jab, great counter punching, wants to keep this fight standing. And I'm with you. Look, he had some real trouble. He said he was hesitant to get off his first huge title fight for Stephen Thompson, and Woodley was able to take advantage of it early. But we saw when Thompson established that range, he is so good and maybe the most technically sound striker in all of the UFC. This one, again, styles makes fights. Can Woodley close that gap, get him on the ground again and pound him? Because if he can't, I think Thompson here may be a deserving favorite.
Woodley almost got the guillotine on him, and he did break his nose, right? He broke Thompson's nose in the fight. I was just impressed with Thompson, whether you think he won that fight or not. It was extremely close. His ability, his threshold for pain, and his ability to keep coming back after looking like, boy, any other fighter that would have fought Woodley at that weight class would have probably been out of there probably by the end of round 3 with the way he was struggling a little bit at times and just the sheer pain of what he was going through, almost getting guillotined and submitting to that. So you got a situation now where you got Woodley, as you mentioned, very heavy puncher. You got Thompson, who throws at least twice as many punches throughout this fight. Where are you going? Where do you think the money deserves to come? What do you think it's going to close, by the way, and where would Matt Holt put his money?
I think we're probably going to see the $1.50 range as the closer. Because Woodley looks so good, especially early in the first fight, I think he's going to attract plenty of attention. There's a strong case to be made for Woodley. 11 of his 16 wins come by way of finish. He might be the best power puncher in the welterweight division. So I think that there's a really strong case to be made for Woodley. I actually like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in this fight. I think he controls that distance a little better than he did in the first fight, uses that range and lands a lot of kicks and punches, and then catches Woodley coming in. Both of these guys are actually finishers. And interestingly enough, they're both 34 years old, which we sometimes consider on the wrong side of the hill in MMA. But between them, they only have about 35 fights, so they're not shop-worn. They look a really fresh 34 out there. I like Wonderboy Thompson in this fight, even at the inflated price now of $1.50.
I hope it's as exciting as the first match, and I hope it's as exciting as this one looks like it should be on paper. Also wanted to mention real quickly, be sure to tune in to Thursday night WagerTalk Radio, SB Nation Radio. Check it out on your dial. Matt, Marco, and I are going to have Stefan Bonner, former UFC fighter, who's going to be on with us talking about this card, this fight, the entire card, along with LouofGamblu.com. That'll be Thursday night. If you miss it live, it's 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern on SB Nation Radio. You can check out the archive later Thursday night, early Friday morning on WagerTalk.com. Also, don't forget, take $10 off any package this weekend. Simply use the code UFC209. For Matt, I'm Scott. Still more to come. Stick around.